Hello, everyone. My name is Claudia Rajski, and I'm a second year studying environmental science at UCLA.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christy. I'm a second year MCD bio major student at UCLA.
Today, we're going to be talking to you about transparent companies, how transparent companies are when it comes to disclosing information within their sustainability reports, and specifically how transparent they are with the metric of net zero goals. So numerous large companies are the leading causes of our environmental problems due to their high consumption of materials and unsustainable practices. In an attempt to minimize this and communicate their efforts to the public, companies disclose their efforts and progress in usually annual sustainability reports. In order to capture a company's efforts in regards to um, in order to capture companies' efforts in regarding the negative impact they have on society, the environmental, social, and governance metrics, or otherwise known as ESG, have been developed. This usually provides a benchmark for employees, customers, and investors, and allows companies' efforts toward corporate social responsibility to be compared. This is very important because it allows companies to be held accountable and also moving towards more sustainable practices. However, sustainability reports are not required or enforced by any government agency, making them entirely voluntary by corporations. This voluntary practice results in measurements being non-standard, incomplete, unprecise, and also very misleading. A big concern arises as to how to accurately measure corporate sustainability and whether the metrics that are provided are substantial enough to determine its sustainability. As the reporting of ESG metrics is almost entirely voluntary, companies can be very selective also about what information they include within these reports. So why did we choose a net zero metric? The category of net zero goals was selected for further research on how companies are disclosing data for this specific metric. The most recent IPCC report, which stands for International Panel on Climate Change, was analyzed and current and projected global warming as code red to humanity. At the COP26 conference, the action was taken to address this concern by 136 countries pledging to obtain net zero. However, these pledges all differ from one another, such as 55% of countries committing to achieving net zero after 2050, 44% by 2041 to 2050, and 1% by 2030. And all these pledges lack important policy details.
Okay, then I'll introduce some of the methodology involved in our study. The research hypothesis is that making ESG metrics data available will encourage companies to make their ESG performance data more transparent and ultimately improve their ESG performance. So in order to assess a corporation's honest disclosure of its metrics, our team developed certain steps to achieve this purpose, from collecting information to finally displaying these information. So first of all, a standardized method of gathering data was established. Our team collected information from companies' sustainability reports or equivalents for recent years to make a systematic summary of the performance data for companies on the S&P 500 and Fortune 200 lists. In this way, information can be equally and fairly compared. Next, a Qualtrics survey is used to categorize and organize the information from companies' reports. The current Qualtrics survey includes a total of 15 core metrics used to assess companies' ESG performance. Some most common and important ones are governance body composition, climate change, greenhouse gas emissions, nature loss, land use and ecological sensitivity, and diversity and inclusion. These metrics address both the social and environmental behaviors of the companies. Our primary addition to the research team is completing a separate Qualtrics survey that solely utilizes the net zero metrics. A total of 41 questions are then asked within this survey. The 41 questions help us understand companies' net zero performance on the three aspects. First, where the companies are now regarding their net zero goal. For example, questions include current emissions of greenhouse gases for scopes 1, 2, 3. And second, where the companies are going to be. For example, include like when their net zero goals will be achieved and what kind of scopes they will be covering. And also finally, how the companies are going to achieve their net zero goals. And the questions include what kind of offsets they are using and whether they are working with Science-Based Targets Initiative, SBTI, and also whether they have some interim milestones along the way. And after the data collection for enough companies, data will be primarily analyzed and visualized. After collecting information for both surveys, our team compile and visualize this data using an online dashboard. And with this dashboard, companies will be able to compare their ESG performance as well as disclosure transparency with competitors in similar industries. We hope that this will help companies understand where they are greatly and poorly performing and where they should start if they want to improve their and truly achieve their net zero goals. Next slide, please. Up till the end of last quarter, we collected data for a total of 33 companies for the Net Zero Qualtrics survey. Using these data, we performed some primary data analysis to get an overview of how companies behave regarding net zero goals. Among the 33 companies, 22 of them have a net zero goal, which means that they specifically indicated in their sustainability reports that they will achieve zero emissions of greenhouse gases by certain years. However, only about half of these 22 companies have an interim goal along the way. Interim goals are good indicators of whether companies are truly planning to achieve their stated net zero goals. We also look at whether these companies are working with the Science Based Targets Initiative, SBTI, to develop or track their net zero goals. SBTI, serving as a platform for companies to verify their efforts towards net zero, gives a clear blueprint for companies on how they should bring their stated goals into reality. It turns out that less than 1/3 of the companies that have existing net zero goals are verified by SBTI, which means that most companies currently lack external verifications and supervision of their net zero goals. Finally, we take a look at what scopes of emissions these goals are covering. 3 out of 22 will cover all 3 scopes of emissions. 14 out of 22 will cover scope 1, 2, and a portion of scope 3 emissions. And another 3 out of 22 companies will only cover scope 1 and 2 emissions for their stated net zero goals. Another thing that deserves attention is that scope 1 and scope 2 emission usually count only a small proportion of the company's total emissions. Therefore, if the companies are only covering scope 1 and scope 2 emissions, they're just reducing a very small proportion of their total greenhouse gas emissions. And up till this moment, we have collected data for around 130 companies, and we will do a similar round of data analysis very soon. And another expected outcome of the research project is an online dashboard that showcases and explains how companies are performing in terms of the ESG performance and ESG data transparency. Companies will be able to select metrics on the online dashboard, change the industry sector they want to look at, and compare themselves to their competitors. The dashboard we created will give companies a clearer picture of how their environmental, social, and government-related performance ranks among all these top companies. We therefore hope that this dashboard will encourage companies to further increase their disclosure rates, improve their environmental and social performance, and also address the current lack of understanding of the company's ESG data and ESG disclosure.
So overall, from the data collected so far, it is evident that there's no systematic procedure on how to disclose information impacting the evaluation of company sustainability. The vagueness of many companies' net zero goals allows them not to be held accountable and prevents sustainable change from occurring. This is important because as more research is published regarding climate change and how detrimental our current practices are to the environment, then any actions we take now are going to be heightened and necessary in preserving it. However, if we continue to prolong our actions, then mitigating our damage is going to be much more difficult. Thank you.